There's a pretty huge link to the Punisher mythos in Spider-Man PS4's DLC, but no one's really talking about it. Let's fix that. Hey, Chris Baker here. I just played through the first part of the Spider-Man PS4 DLC, and it has one of my absolute favorite subtle Easter eggs in the game at the very beginning. And if you're one of the fine few folks who saw my last video, you know I'm rather fond of subtle Easter eggs. Don't be too hard on yourself if you don't see it, but the opening sequence for the heist which you see here has probably the most obvious Punisher reference in the entire game. It's the only one I know of, to be honest, and it's a pretty big one too. It has nothing to do with Hammerhead, it has nothing to do with the Spider-Man focused Maggia families like the Ciceros and Fortunatos. Rather, the thing that jumped out at me was when I saw mention of the Costa family. Beyond seeing their name here in the opening sequence, there was this part during MJ's gameplay.
Come on.
Oh, hell no.
Oh.
All right, I'll tell the boys.
The Costa family's causing trouble, acting like they want to go to war. I gotta have a sit down, see what we do about this.
And that's pretty much it. So what's the deal? Why is the name Costa such a big link to the Punisher? Don't kick yourself for not knowing. It's something rather huge for Frank Castle that's occurred in both movies and TV as well, but has only ever involved the name Costa in 1970s comics, a couple of pre-2000 forgotten offshoots since, and one video game. In fact, said game has the best interpretation of this tie, and here it is. That's right, according to the original take on the Punisher's origin story, it was the Costa family, led by Bruno and Frank Costa, who killed Frank Castle's family in Central Park, thereby birthing the one-man vengeance machine known as the Punisher. This all happened all the way back in August 1975's Marvel Preview number 2 and January 1976's Marvel Super Action number 1. Both of which were last reprinted in 1989's Classic Punisher number 1 and, near as I can tell, have also never seen a digital release. Unless, of course, you count Capcom's 1993 arcade game as a digital release, as its Attract mode brings to life the event in a comic-accurate way never seen anywhere else. This intro really makes you feel like the whole game will be a revenge mission against the Costas. And it actually does kind of start out that way. Early on, you're chasing Bruno Costa through New York, and it sort of feels like an actual adaptation of those old 1970s comics. At one point, he sicks a villain named Scully on you, who has nothing to do with the Costas in the comics. After the Punisher pulverizes him, Scully says Bruno is headed to Florida at Castle Panta Verde. Close enough, I guess? And then we get a scuba assault on the compound that's kind of straight out of the comics. We even fight named goons working for the Costas like Kolsky, Hannigan, and Legre. And near the end of level 2, it's time for a showdown with Bruno, when this happens. I should probably have mentioned that the Punisher didn't actually kill Bruno Costa in the comic. An assassin named Audrey beat him to the punch. I guess having a huge robot do the trick is kind of the same lack of proper just desserts. The robot, which I don't believe was ever in the comics, was programmed by the Kingpin, who turns out to be the actual adversary you're after in the game. Never mind the fact that there's no narrative structure suggesting why. In fact, never mind anything regarding narrative in this game, and certainly not grammar. Still, the game is pretty awesome, and I should talk about it more someday. It actually has a lot in common with Cadillacs and Dinosaurs, another comic book game that I should talk about more someday. So back to Spider-Man PS4. What could this Costa connection actually mean in future DLC? I see three possibilities. One, and most likely, Nothing. The Costas just end up being a family name associated with the Maggia to pad things out a bit, and that's totally fine. 2, and what I'd most like to see, we meet Frank and Bruno Costa, or maybe even their more forgotten brother Rufio from Daredevil Annual number 4. Maybe they're just named, maybe they're mini-bosses, maybe they're spotted in Central Park at the spot of a certain crime scene. This reality might not have a Punisher yet. Or 3, the rise of the Demon Olivier. Yes, this is a real thing that happened in the late 90s. It turned out that Frank Costa was actually a demon exiled to Earth for not being a good demon or something. He saw the killer in Frank and arranged for that fateful day in Central Park to occur, to push him over the edge. With Frank wearing the demon's face as his symbol, he was empowering Olivier with every kill the Punisher made, so that Olivier could reclaim himself among the demons or something. Oh, and Bruno was right there by his side, looking sharp. Not nearly as sharp, however, as the Punisher did in the Marvel Swimsuit Special 1993. Pretty sure when Olivier thought it'd be awesome if Frank wore his symbol, he wasn't thinking of a codpiece. Or maybe he was. On that note, enjoy the DLC. Please let me know what you think about the Costa's role in this, and follow Spider-Ham's advice. See you next time, everybody.